Hello again. I just wanted to start out the morning with a quick flight on the drone so you can get a nice early morning sunrise view of Pleasure Island and Carolina Beach. Good morning again, everyone. This is our last day of our journey. we are now just taking a ride out to the Carolina Beach Pier. On the right, there is now a parking lot where I believe was once the Surfside Motor Lodge. Many of the motels that I remember here from my youth are now demolished and other buildings are put in their place. But surprisingly enough, the Savannah Inn, where we stayed this time, and the Dolphin Lane Motel have been here for as long as I can remember. Of course, as I said at the beginning of our trip, Savannah Inn was actually the first motel I ever stayed in. I was a little too young to remember it, and back then it was known as the Anchor Motel. And Dolphin Lane was the first motel I remember ever staying in, at the time being called King's Motel. Both of which have been here for quite some time. I do not know the exact years of their opening, but I do know that the King's Motel has been around for at least since 1986, because it's where my parents spent their honeymoon. Once again crossing the Snow's Cut on the Atlantic Intracoastal Waterways, saying farewell to Pleasure Island for this trip. But the day is not over yet. We still have plenty more to see in the Wilmington area. Now, there are two places that I consider to be required stops while in the Wilmington area. We will see both of those today, but one of those is Yellow Dog Discs. Quite possibly my favorite record store to visit. Okay, so we spent a good hour or more in Yellow Dog Discs, and didn't really come away with too much today, but one thing in particular I did was an original copy of Alice Cooper Easy Action. So this now completes my Alice Cooper Band discography of actual records. I actually had bought one of the new printings of Easy Action about a year ago. I believe actually I got it down here as well. Got all the way home and went to play it. It was the Easy Action cover, Easy Action label on the record. Started playing it. It was Alice Cooper Killers. They had apparently been some misprint, and quite a few of them were actually like that, sent out in these new prints. So this is an original though, so I would certainly hope that this is the real deal.
Now, if you didn't know already, Wilmington and the surrounding area has a very rich history in film and television production. Right now, we're making our way to the very heart of it all.
Now over here to my left
is where all the magic happens. Screen Gem Studios, otherwise known as East Hollywood. While the studio has changed names and ownership multiple times since the early 1980s, over 300 movies and television shows have been filmed in the Wilmington area in the time since. As I've mentioned some movies already, and we'll get into some more here shortly, some notable TV shows that have been filmed here include Matlock, Sleepy Hollow, Eastbound and Down, as mentioned earlier, and probably is most popularly known for two shows that I've never seen a single episode of, Dawson's Creek and One Tree Hill. While the film industry in Wilmington has suffered a bit of decline in the last couple of years, Screen Gem Studios of Wilmington is still the largest studio east of California. Now over here on our right is a bridge easily recognizable from the Stephen King classic Maximum Overdrive. This is the Isabel Holmes Bridge that was seen in the opening scene of the movie, where of course the bridge opened on its own and many people lost their lives. Now again, I'll touch on a few more films shot in the area shortly, but one movie that I forgot to mention when initially filming is the 1994 film The Crow, starring Brandon Lee. Now, a very interesting story regarding this, as many of you watching may know, that Brandon Lee was tragically killed during the filming of The Crow due to a prop malfunction with the gun used on the set. But as I mentioned earlier, that my first visit to the area was in 1993, though I have no personal memory of this trip, my family and I were actually staying in Carolina Beach when Brandon Lee was killed. We're now coming into the downtown river district of Wilmington, possibly my favorite downtown area in any city I've ever visited. It may not be very big, but that's part of the reason that I love it so much. It's very easy to navigate, not too busy, and surrounded by beautiful waterfront scenery. And now, of course, we're in downtown Wilmington, quite possibly my favorite destination when I take this trip. Now, as I mentioned before, we passed Screen Gem Studios. That is the primary movie studio of the East Coast now. I know a lot of stuff has kind of moved away from New York and is mostly done down here now. Many shows and movies have been filmed in the downtown Wilmington area and all throughout Wilmington, as I've already mentioned. Weekend at Bernie's, filmed on Oak Island. The comedy show Eastbound and Down, starring Danny McBride. The third season was shot around Carolina Beach. The fourth season shot around Wilmington. Then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Maximum Overdrive was filmed all around Wilmington. Many horror movies. Actually, the upcoming Halloween sequel that was due to come out this year, I believe, is now pushed off till next year. That was also filmed around Wilmington. And another movie filmed down here, interestingly enough, is the cult classic and highly disregarded and shunned film, the Super Mario Brothers movie. There's actually still quite a few artifacts around the town from that movie, and maybe we'll find a few of those today. Now, one movie, though, that was not filmed around Wilmington or on the Cape Fear River, interestingly enough, is the movie Cape Fear. Neither the original starring Robert Mitchum or the one with Robert De Niro. Neither of those were filmed in the Wilmington area, and that has always bothered me.
And behind me, of course, is the most recognizable feature and landmark in all of Wilmington, the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. Truly one of my favorite things to do downtown is walk along the Cape Fear Riverwalk. Now, the first time I ever walked this was back in 2014 on my first trip with Claude here. And the walk was only in little sections at that time. Apparently, it's been an ongoing project since the 1980s, but just about 3 or 4 years ago, they finally completed the walkway, which stretches about a mile along the Cape Fear riverfront, with many shops and restaurants alongside it. I could spend all afternoon out here, be it watching boats go by on the river, or even just watching the traffic along the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. There's just something very peaceful about walking along this small stretch of such a large river. Now behind me, of course, is the battleship North Carolina, a location that many in the Paranormal Society have rated the most haunted location in North Carolina. Now, I've personally been on the battleship many times over the years and have never seen anything out of the ordinary, in my opinion, but what do I know? I'm not the ghost hunter expert. Now, once again, if you're a history buff like myself, then you really should take a trip to the battleship North Carolina, which is open year-round for tours that I've also taken many times. Being the most decorated battleship of World War II, it is a fascinating experience, even if you don't see any ghosts. Definitely one of my favorite places to visit downtown is the Black Cat Shop, which is just a really fun little odds and ends souvenir shop. I always make a point to stop in here, and you definitely should too. Just watch out if the wizard is holding the door open for you. Now, unfortunately, another favorite stop of mine, Finkelstein's Music, was closed on the day we were down here. Just a really nice little music shop that I've been coming to for as long as I can remember, though over the years it has shrunk by more than half its size. And sadly, yet another place that was closed that day is the Barbary Coast Bar, which houses some of the original props from the Super Mario Bros. Movie, as I was mentioning earlier. I was really disappointed about not getting to see those. Now, earlier I said that there were only 2 required stops in Wilmington. That's kind of a lie. There's a few places I feel the need to stop every time. This place here on the left, the Cigar Exchange, actually one of my favorite cigar shops to visit, and a required eating establishment, the Slice of Life Pizzeria, on the left as well. Place I make sure to stop in every time I'm down here. Now, I honestly think what I love the most about Wilmington is that while it is a very modernized town, a lot of modern amenities, shopping, dining, and other tourist establishments, it still also looks like it hasn't changed since the early 19th century. As you can see, many of the streets are still paved with brick, and those that have been topped feel like you're still driving on brick. Many of the buildings haven't changed since that time either.
Now, with one extra drone battery left, I decided to make one more stop before leaving the Wilmington area. We decided to cross over onto Eagle Island to the parking lot of the battleship North Carolina, just to get one last view of the city, the river, and all the beautiful surrounding area. Unfortunately, though, I was in a restricted area due to the airport landing zone, so I could only go up about 150 feet, but still enough to enjoy a quick panorama of the downtown Wilmington waterfront. Now, as typical, we decided not to go back the same way we came. So on our way, there's just one last stop I want to make, right on the outskirts of Wilmington. If you're driving west along U.S. Highway 74 and 76 leaving Wilmington, at the junction of NC Highway 87, you would come to a very small community that is home to nothing more than a few small stores, a handful of houses, and one rather spooky local legend. And we are gassing up our car one last time before we hit the road. We're in the community of Mako Station. Now, really quick little interesting fact about this community. There is a local legend of the Mako lights, which were apparently a ghost light that was seen for years on the railroad tracks that used to run through the community. Now, I've done my research and tried to find exactly where the tracks were and where the lights were seen, and to my best knowledge, it is on private property somewhere, so I don't guess we'll actually be finding that today, but still a very interesting little spooky fact nonetheless. And really all there is here is just a little gas station and Hardee's and Dollar General. So that's the only way you really know where you're at through here on 74 West. But, like I said, we've just gassed up, and we're going to take another way home. Haven't really decided which way, just trying to keep it interesting so we're not seeing the same old things over and over. But I hope you've enjoyed this special on the road with Vincent around the Carolina Beach and Wilmington area. And I will definitely be doing more long specials like this scattered throughout, and of course the regularly scheduled on the road with Vincent. But until next time, we'll see you then.
Ultimately, we decided to take NC Highway 87 the entire way back, as it runs from Southport, North Carolina, all the way to Ridgway, Virginia, which is not far at all from our home in Patrick County, a return route that we've taken more than once before. So before I go, I just wanted to say thank you again for joining me on this extended road trip special. I do hope that you've enjoyed this series. Though it took much longer to edit than planned, I still had lots of fun filming this special, and as I said, I will continue to film more like it in the future. So I decided to shoot the entire way back, just as a nice closing, and to show that even on the way back from a long road trip, you can still make the most of the journey and enjoy the beauty of the open road all along the way. Thank you again for riding along. This has been Vincent Rains, and I will see you all next time.